Many teens like to hang out after school, but now one McDonald's in Brooklyn is barring anyone under the age of 20 from entering their restaurant without an accompanying adult.
A sign went up on the door announcing the policy change last week.
You know, one of the things that I think it's absolutely crucial for people across this country to understand is that your own perception or what you encounter in your day-to-day life is not what other people in other neighborhoods across this country see every day. And this is why oftentimes it becomes a national news or a real oddity of a story when you see a franchise that is all about standardization at each and every one of its locations across the country engage in a business practice that would never go on where you live. And a perfect example of that is when you see the images and videos of McDonald's and other fast food places in Detroit, and you realize that those fast food places have bulletproof glass like the bank, and each and every person needs to exchange their goods and their money through a small window, again, as if they're engaging with tellers at an American bank, a very secure financial institution that, again, has been historically the target for robberies because guess what? That's where the money is. Well, another example of this is this Brooklyn McDonald's that we're going to be talking about today, because they have decided to institute a new policy of carding people at the door and not allowing people under the age of 20 to enter said McDonald's. And this is due to the fact that there are serious instances of violent crime that are often caused by the teens that go to the nearby high school. Now again, for you, this might seem to be completely abnormal. For me, who lives in New York City, the same city where this occurred, this is also abnormal because the McDonald's and other fast food locations don't do this where I live. But in this context, in this part of Brooklyn, with these teenagers acting the way they do, it actually is a perfectly logical response to all the different various policies that cater to criminals, cater to underage criminals, and of course pull back the police and don't allow them to engage with them in any kind of meaningful way. If you don't want to have a system where your teenager can't even get a snack from McDonald's after school, then maybe, just maybe, you should think twice about having laws like raise the age and bail reform and less is more, which lower the consequences for repeat offenders and of course make it nearly impossible to hold people that are under the age 18 accountable for their actions. Now we're going to get into this, we're going to break this down, but before we do, I want to thank everybody who supports this channel via actualjusticewarrior.com/join.
Give me the money. Give me the money. Okay?
Most retailers look for ways to increase foot traffic, but the McDonald's at 2154 Nostrand Avenue in Brooklyn is doing the opposite. As the sign on the door shows, anyone under 20 needs an ID or a parent to get in.
Now look, the local news segment opens up by saying that most locations, most businesses are looking for a way to increase foot traffic. However, this McDonald's has decided to institute the policy that we described in the open, but they seem to just kind of gloss over this because in reality, if you look at the layout of this McDonald's, if you look at the block that it's on, obviously this is not a place where people are often driving through. Obviously this McDonald's is very dependent on all the customers that they can get in order to stay open, especially when you factor in all the struggles of fast food giants as of late with inflation raising their prices. So it would make sense for them to just allow as many customers as possible, again, just like a regular ordinary McDonald's would. However, in this context, based on the number of instances and how violent they were, this is really all they can do. Again, if they don't want their people to get hurt, and if you're thinking maybe they should take some other security precautions, I assure you they absolutely have.
This sucks. While some dislike the new door policy being enforced by a trio of security guards and backed up by NYPD officers outside.
Did you catch that right there? Something is so wrong in this McDonald's in this particular area of Brooklyn that the security policy of checking people's IDs and making sure nobody under 20 without being accompanied by a parent or a suitable aged adult enters this location is being enforced by a trio of security guards and by an NYPD unit that is stationed outside of this McDonald's because it's that much of a hotspot for criminality. The NYPD unit, by the way, is often going to have bare minimum 2 police officers, so you have 5 dedicated security personnel in order to crack down on the criminality at this location. However, that is not even close to enough. So in response to the fact that they still can't deal with the criminality, they've decided to just ban all people under the age of 20 from this particular location, again, without a suitable aged adult to accompany them. Do you understand how absolutely crazy the violence has to be for a company like McDonald's that that is always downsizing, always reducing the number of staff to employ not one, but 3 on staff at the same time security guards. Do you understand how maddening that is? Do you understand how crazy that is? That even with the police support that is supposed to be stationed there, that is supposed to be dealing with these criminals, the laws are so soft on youthful offenders. Again, see raise the age, see bail reform, see less is more, which shows you even if they're on probation or parole, that probation or parole isn't going to be violated. You just can't have a society like this. This is not a rational way to operate a McDonald's.
The reasoning is plain. McDonald's locations are all too often the scene of violent crimes, and both the victims and perpetrators can often be young.
I mean, really think about this, guys. If this McDonald's location is open 24/7, like many of these New York urban McDonald's locations happen to be, then that means you're in a situation where you have 3 on-duty security guards at a time, so that equals 9 total security personnel employed by this McDonald's. Again, and that's assuming, and I will admit, it is a stretch, that they constantly have 3 guards at all times, not just 3 at the peak times when things get most dangerous. If we're being generous, maybe they have 2 additional guards for the other shifts that are just not nearly as dangerous, so we'll give them a grand total of 5. Then you have the NYPD units that are out there, and bare minimum, you're going to have 2 during the day that are going to be stationed, so that's 4 NYPD officers, and assuming, again, that maybe it's not open 24/7 or something of the sort, we're not even going to count the 3rd unit, which would make 6 NYPD officers, because that still gives us a total of 9 people dedicated to securing this one McDonald's. Do you know how many McDonald's are across the city of New York? This is obviously not a scalable plan. This is obviously absurd. And if your laws are so bad, if they pander so much to criminal teenagers that you're going to allow this to happen, then just stop. Just quit being a city. Just retire. Governor Kathy Hochul, you have so many problems right now. You're one of the most unpopular governors in the entire country for a reason, and this is exactly why, because you're a champion of these kind of policies, and it's proven out by the data that they just make things worse. I mean, again, we could be paying overtime to these NYPD officers in order to be stationed here, in order to, again, secure this one McDonald's, because crime is so rampant here, and of course, we can't hold the criminals accountable. And as we've seen time and time again, and was recently proven out by Larry Krasner, of all people, in the city of Philadelphia, if you just target the repeat offenders, that core group that commit an outsized amount of crime, then you could reduce even the most serious crimes like homicides, and that's exactly what we've seen represented in the data in the city of Philadelphia. A woke Soros district attorney who didn't want to prosecute anyone for anything saw murder skyrocket under his watch, but suddenly going into an election, he decided that we were going to target repeat offenders and give them lengthier prison sentences, and he's done a complete 180 on crime, on homicides, the most serious crime in that area. If we had changes in the law, because a lot of the problems in New York do not actually stem from the prosecutors, the Brooklyn DA is not actually all that terrible as compared to DA Alvin Bragg in Manhattan or the Bronx district attorney, but the fact of the matter is, if you don't have the tools, even if you have the right person in the position, you're not going to be able to address these problems in any kind of meaningful way.
Those who patronize this location themselves have seen issues. What have you seen happening?
They jumped the security guard, the grub guy, fights, jumps.
Yeah, so by the way, that's why they have multiple different security guards at this location, and that's why they have the NYPD station out front, because these teenagers at this specific location have gotten so rowdy, have gotten so crazy, that they actually ended up jumping the security personnel. And again, imagine being in that position. Imagine being hired to do the head of security position at a McDonald's, thinking that that job's not all that serious, and then you realize that it's one of the most violent fast food restaurants on planet Earth, that particular location, and then you get jumped by a mob of aggressive teenagers.
They be like blocking the doorway, blocking the ATM machine.
Some point out the children need a place to congregate.
So this guy says he's seen teenagers blocking off the door, crowding the ATM in this particular McDonald's, which, by the way, you should be going to an ATM at your bank in order to avoid fees. But typically, in my experience at McDonald's locations, ATMs tend to have the lowest fees there, sometimes as little as 99 cents. So I understand why a lot of people who maybe are not near their bank location and have to walk everywhere, because New York City is a very walking-based city, somebody would decide to stop off at this McDonald's. But imagine you're going to get cash for whatever purpose that you need it. You stop off at the McDonald's, which should be a normal, ordinary business, and there's a bunch of teenagers crowding the ATM, potentially looking to rob you if you take out the wrong amount of money. So you're intimidating all these legitimate people who have reasons to be there in order for what? Them to have a good time, them to enjoy themselves. And the crazy thing is that the alternative to this, actually, punishing these people, kicking them out, giving them the boot, or doing something about the criminality, is to build a rec center.
Some point out the children need a place to congregate and after-school options. And locals tell Fox 5 a new recreation center should be opening soon. But NYPD stats show without it, there have already been nearly 30 911 calls to this location in this young year, which is set to exceed the past 3 years, during which more than 100 911 calls were made for this location every year.
So yeah, they're trying to build a rec center in and around this area because kids need a place to go after school. Maybe, just maybe, they're going to initiate midnight basketball in order to solve all this criminality. But if you guys didn't quite catch that, what they ended up saying is that there have been 31 911 calls to this location already this year. And remember, these kids are in school during school days, and we ended up having a bunch of different holidays to start the year leading into New Year's and all that. And still, once every 2 days, there is an incident at this specific location. Again, that's why they have 3 security guards. That's why they have an NYPD unit stationed out there. And that's why they've banned teens from this location, because it's absolutely insane what's going on at this particular McDonald's. And by the way, this is well ahead of the pace from last year, where they received about 1 911 call every 3 days. And again, I will just point out, there's only 181 days in your standard school year. If this is really disproportionately teenagers, they should only be present in schools for half the year, and yet you're getting 100 911 calls to this particular location in a normal year, and now that pace has escalated even more, and now all of a sudden, if you were wondering if IDing people at the entrance of this McDonald's with 3 security guards and a police presence outside, maybe the National Guard coming soon, is necessary, it absolutely is.
And with that, the new door policy has its fans.
I would suggest they keep up with the IDing people. Honestly, I feel like that's the best, and it's just like what you have to do. Do what you have to do, honestly.
So a couple of things. First and foremost, we ended up seeing the flag for this particular location, and it is open 24/7. So I was right about that instinctually, so we can actually upgrade the number of personnel that are guarding this particular area. And by the way, when we get to that level of police officers that are there 24/7, security guards that need to be there, we're talking about an amount of security personnel that would likely sound more reasonable for President Trump's McDonald's publicity stunt during the course of the campaign. And yet this is just for an everyday instances or everyday occurrences in a McDonald's in the city of New York. Absolute madness. And by the way, some of the people that are in and around this neighborhood actually support the ID policy because they just want to get some McDonald's. They're like my friend Tony from Current Revolt. He just wants to eat his crap food. He doesn't want to actually engage with a bunch of criminal types while he's doing it.
While this McDonald's is making waves because it's the first one we know of in the city that's doing this, some people out here say they would support other retailers if they decide to do the same.
I'll be supportive because they're a bother. They don't know how to behave.
A feeling that may make the door policy at this McDonald's food for thought for other retailers in the city.
I mean, again, just think about the disconnect that you see between the citizens in around this area, the people who actually have to engage with the criminals, and your left-wing progressives. And by the way, the people that are elected to represent these very people. I guarantee you that if the state senator and the state assembly person is the same that cover this district, these people voted in favor of raise the age. These people voted in favor of bail reform, and they voted in favor of less is more. Hell, many of them might have voted to take money out of the NYPD after the whole Black Lives Matter riots kicked off, all in the idea that they were serving people in these endangered communities and protecting the children's from the evil police. Well, now look at the results. You have all these different staffers, all these different violent instances, and even if the police initiate arrest after arrest, there's no consequences for it. So this is the society that many people in this country live in. This is the experience of America that they get each and every day, while you go into a McDonald's, likely in your neighborhood, if you live in an even marginally better neighborhood, without even noticing anything of the sort. Again, if you got a security guard in your McDonald's, you're in a bad neighborhood. If you have 3 security guards, you're in a terrible neighborhood. 3 security guards and a police police unit that is patrolling constantly, you're in a really terrible neighborhood. And of course, if you got bulletproof glass between you and the McDonald's clerk, just get out of there. I don't want to be anywhere where the risk of gunfire for me to get some French fries is that high. But you know what? Those are just my thoughts. I want to know what you guys think about all of this down in the comments below. If you like this video, show them by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on the social medias, support me via the support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about McDonald's banning teens due to their insane violence. Till next time.